Hi, welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. And if you're a new subscriber, hi! Today's video, as you might have guessed from the title card, is an octagon children's cardigan. I call it a one-piece cardigan because you make it in one piece. So there's the first one I made. I'm guessing this is about for a child of 8 or a small 8-year-old. Okay, this is the back. And it's all made in one piece with the traditional granny squares stitch pattern. And then the second one I did, just to get used to the pattern and work out a few things, is this one, which is made for a slightly larger child. And there's the back. Yeah, it's quite a good pattern, very similar to the hexagon patterns, but they're two pieces. This is only one piece. So the one I just held up, this was done in 2 balls of this yarn. I'm guessing it doesn't have a ply on it, but I'm guessing this is around a 10 ply. I used a 6mm hook for this one. And the other one, the first one I showed you, was this yarn here. And I used the same hook for this. So same hook for both. Both of them used around 2 balls of this thickness. And there is a little bit more of this one left over because I'll show you. I color controlled all the ribbing. So like the 2 hands were brown, the bottom was the blue, and then around the neck was the cream. So this was actually my 3rd ball, but I didn't use much of it because I was color controlling. Whether with this one, I didn't color control anything. So what you'll need if you wanted to make one, and it can be made in any size, which is what's really great, is that you need a shirt that fits the person you want to put it on. So I got this one from our local op shop, and this is a size 5, kids 1 till 9. Okay, so you need a shirt. Now it doesn't matter if it's long sleeve or short sleeve. What you need to be able to do is to measure the back armpit to armpit. Don't do it on the child, do it on the clothes the child can wear. It makes a difference. And then the other thing you'll need, I'm going to stick with the 10 ply. So I have this mill end. Now I've got a feeling that this is like either a mill end of an actual yarn or a replica of a yarn. I think this might be a mandala. It is a bit thicker, so maybe a sweet roll. If anyone knows what it is, it reminds me of the red velvet one, but as it was a mill end, we don't know. So I've got 2 of these to do it. And then I always do my cardigans in a size bigger than it says. So I will be doing these in a size 6 again. Let me just get a 6 out. No, that's a 4, 3. We'll go with that. Okay, so we'll have a 6 size hook and a measuring tape, and we will get started. So here we have our shirt that we're going to use for our sizing. I've got out a 5.5. Let me turn it over the right way. So 5.5. Hopefully you can see that. And I also have a 6 because this is a million yarn and I'm not totally sure which way it'll have to go. There are also 2 different types of heads on these. This one's a slightly wider head, so it might allow me to have a slightly softer tension. That's the word. So the one I'm going to be making will be the granny cluster cardigan, this one. But the only difference between the 2 is in the corners. So if I get the other one as well. On a granny cluster one, you have your standard corner. So this is a corner here, which is a cluster, which is 3 double crochets. Then we have a chain 2 and then another 3 double crochets. So that's every corner going out for this one. But for the solid granny one, we have 2 double crochets. Hopefully you can see that. Each one of these is a row. And I'm also doing every stitch into the back loop. It makes a softer cardigan if you do that. So the actual structure of the cardigan is the same. It's just the corners are different and every stitch is done in the back loop. You know that because you can see this loop on every row being prominent. We're not turning our work over, so you don't have to remember, oh, it's the back loop here and the front loop there. No, we're not doing that. So this is the one we're going to be making today. Well, in this video. It might take more than this day. And so we are starting on the back. So turn it over. And we need to make this part right here. And this is why we needed a shirt. We need to know what the measurement from under the armpit to the under the other armpit is. So we'll get that out the way because it's not enough space. So here's our little shirt. I'm going to turn it over so we have the back, because we can always make the front bigger, but we can't make the back bigger because that's where we're starting. So let me just see where that is. Down a little bit. So we have armpit to armpit. Get our tape out, and armpit to armpit is 32 centimeters. So our first row has to be at least 32 centimeters. Now I'm not going to tell you how many chains that is, because you might use different yarn to me, a different hook, and have different tension. So however many of what I'm going to show you next, it needs to equal that measurement on the shirt you're following. Okay, so we get our hook. I'm going to go with the clover one because that one I have a bit more luck with, as in it goes with my tension better. So first thing we're going to do is a slip knot. So I've got the short end in my hand over my finger, pick up that, turn it over and put it over again. You see it's made like a V shape, and then you pull the back over the front. That is our slip knot. Put that on your hook. Now hold the tail, wind the yarn around your hook, and we want to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. Put a loop on the hook. Now go back to the first chain. We're going to go under 2 of the strands. Doesn't matter which 2, as long as we're under 2. Pick up a loop, pick up another loop, and you should have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to pull through 2, pick up another loop, pull through 2 again. Now that is how we do our first loop. We're going to repeat that. 1, 2 and 3. Loop on the hook, go back to your first chain. Now we're not going in the loop we made, we're making another loop. So you've got 3 on the hook, pick up another loop, go through 2 and go through 2. So we want to keep doing this, making these little loops on a row until we have the measurement here. So I might carry on doing that, and I will be back 2 and 3 when I have done that. Here is my first row done, well, first step, okay. So it, without me touching it, it lays neatly across that measurement that we made, and I have 19 little loops along here. On both jackets, this is the same. It starts the same. If you're making it for a child though, this will fit the child for a while, but if you want to be a bit ahead of the game, I would add another loop just to give the child wear of it a little bit longer. Also, I like it being an even number. That's just me. So we'll make it 20 instead. So just do that. So now we don't need the shirt anymore. We just have our yarn. So this is our first loop. This is where we're starting. Now, because this is a octagon, we need to make 8 sides. So the 2 long ones, that'll be the first 2 sides, and then we need to make 3 sides on every end. So I like to have my joins in the corners. So we go up 3, and then we'll put 2 double crochets in the same spot. So that's 1 and 2. Our first chain becomes our first double crochet. For this jacket or cardigan, every corner has 2 chains in it. And then we need another granny cluster, which is your 3 double crochets. 1, 2 and 3. And then we need to make another corner, so that's 1 and 2. So first side, second side, we need to make the third side will be over here, which puts our joint right in the corner. A joint, that's the word, not joint. So the next thing you want to do is you want to skip to the first loop we made, and then we want to put a cluster in every loop to the end. We are not putting any chains between these loops. So that is all we do. That second one is always hard to remember that it's an actual corner because it's not on the corner, if you get what I mean. So just put that cluster in. So we do have 2 chains here and 2 chains here, and we will have 2 chains here and 2 chains here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 corners in this end. We will be copying that at the other end, but what I'll do is I'll go along and I'll put all these clusters in. Remember, from now on this straight part, we are not putting chains between them. You can if you want, but it will make your jacket very loose, which not really the greatest thing for children because they like, you know, roughen up their clothes a bit. So I'll be back when I get to the other corner, and I'll show you how to turn it all around to come back the other way. Here we have it's all done, and it's 1 cluster in every loop. The bottom of each loop is still open, and we have 2 corners at this end. So we've now got to the last loop before this corner. So you go 2, and then we put the cluster in the last loop. So that is, you need 1 cluster for each corner that you want to put into this loop. So that's 1 corner done here with the 2 chains. Then we do another 2 chains, and we put our second corner. Now this end here, I'm actually just going to lay it down and crochet over it as I go. You don't have to do that. If you want to weave it in, you can, your choice. I do that because I'm lazy and I don't want to do anything else. So that is our second one. We chain 2, and then we put our third cluster into this corner here, well, this loop here, to make a corner. I will move my hands out the way in a minute. I just got to do the last cluster. So that is our full corner. So this other end will look like that when we get back to it. We've got 2 of them. We just need the third one. And then you want to do the chain 2 that we did before. And then you want to jump to the first loop that's free and start working back the other way, putting a granny cluster into each loop so that it corresponds with the one on the other side. And I think on this one I will lose the end, as in won't be a problem anymore. 2 and 3. No chains between them. 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so just pause. So that's what that end looks like. Corner, 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 corner. So each between it is a side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the other end will have 6, 7, 8 in it. So I'm going to keep going to the other end here all the way along until we get back to where we started, and I will be back then. So that is the first row almost done, and we've put a granny cluster corresponding each hole all the way out, and we are now at this last corner. So we chain 2, so we're doing the same as what's on the other side, and then we're going to put in our last corner here, or last side, 2 and 3. Now what happens when I do corners, I find that the join corner sometimes gets a bit too loose. So instead of doing the 2 chains, I do 1, and then I reach over and I get the top chain from our first chain 3, and I slip stitch to there, because I find the slip stitch gives you a chain as well. So that is our first row done. And the other thing I find helpful, we'll get some stitch markers, and I'm going to put a stitch marker in every corner. So everywhere that there was a chain 2, you put a stitch marker. Because until you get a few rows on, all the corners look the same because it's flat. So I'm just seem to be picking out all the orange ones, but anyway. So we have 4 corners on this end, and we come up to this end. I'll make this loop longer so I don't lose it. And at this end, we should have 4 as well, because we need 8 sides. We'll carry on a theme and keep putting orange ones in. And one here. Now I'm going to change the colour for this one because I've got a bit of blue one. This is our join corner, so we have to do something different. So you don't have to keep these in the whole time, but it'll remind you until the piece gets a bit bigger and you can see where the corners are. All right, so get them all that way. So we're trying to make an octagon, so we should have 8 sides, which also means we should have 8 corners. All right. So once again, we pick it up and I'll show you how to get started on all your rows. So I chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. If you have some fancy way to get the height, you go right ahead. If you only want to do 2, you go right ahead. So we're just, I should have showed that. Let's do that again. I'm reaching back. So I pick up the loop and I reach back to that hole. Okay, reaching back. And what that does, the chain 3 is slightly longer than the double crochet. So the reaching back loses that little bit extra that you've gained. Now I go to the next one. I'm going to leave the stitch marker in until I've done half of the corner. And before I forget, I'm going to put the stitch marker in the top of here because we know that's our joining corner. So next corner here, everywhere that there's a stitch marker, we're going to put a corner. Now you don't have to use a stitch marker. You could use paper clips. You could use different coloured bits of string, whatever you want. Just something to mark the corners until you get going. So I just did the chain 2. Turn the work slightly and we'll do the other cluster because this is a corner. 2 and 3. Like that. Put our stitch marker back because we haven't done enough yet to know that that's definitely a corner. And we go to the next one. Next hole, which is a corner. We didn't put a chain 1 between these because that's between a corner, not in a corner. 2 and 3. Chain 2. Take the marker off. You won't have to keep doing them once you know where your corners are. You just don't want to lose them on the first couple of rows. 2 and 3. So that's our first lot of corners done. I put the join here because it would be too difficult to get it correct on this corner. If you would like to put it there, you may work that out, but this is the way I've worked it out. So we're going to keep going until we get to the other corner, putting one corner. These are the only place you have corners. The rest will be just plain granny clusters in each gap between the clusters. Okay, we're not putting in the stitches, we're putting them in gaps, if you can see that. And I'll keep going until I get to the other corner. We're at the last granny cluster before we get to a corner, so we are going in here. This is the corner without the join. 2 and 3. Then we want to chain 2 and then we want to take that off and do the other half of the corner, which is another cluster. Like that. That's our first corner of this corner. No chains between, and then do the next one. 2 and 3, 1, 2, take the stitch marker off and do the other half of the corner. These are all double crochets. The majority of this cardigan is double crochets. The only time we do something different is when we do the ribbing. That one goes in there and go to the next corner. 1, 2 and 3. Take the stitch marker off. 1, 2 and 3. Marker back on. And the last corner of this corner. 1, 2 and 3. Chain 2, stitch marker off, and the other half of the corner. So that is the whole end done with all corners intact. Marker back on. And then you just carry on the same as you did here on this side all the way to the end, and I will just when I come back I'll show you how to join it up, and I'll tell you what to do in the meantime. When you get back to the corner before the join corner, we do that one the exact same way as all the rest. So I took the stitch marker off early, but you know what I mean. 2 and 3 and chain 2 and do the other half. Like so. Put the marker back in and then do the other half of the first corner into the same space as we did the first half of the first corner in. And we're going to do the joining the same way as we did the last row. Chain 1, take the marker off, and then under the top 2 loops of the top of the chain, pull through that one and pull through that one. So that is our first row completed. Now you want to do this exact row with corners in each one until your fronts meet. So let me just do the first part of this corner. So we chain up 3, pick up the loop, and then come back through the same hole. That way we take out the excess of the chain and do the first half of our first corner. And the next one will be in this gap, but I just want to show you what to do. So I'm going to put that in there in my working loop so we can see what we're doing. So these are our armpits. These bits, these will be the armpits. So you want to be able to lay this out and then fold over whatever you've done so that this edge will meet this edge when it's laid flat. And that will be a while and it will look wrong until you've got at least, say, 4 more rows on. So you've got to keep going around and around and around and around until that happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going around and I will come back. Actually, no, what I'll do is I'll take a photo and I'll put it on the video showing you maybe after 2 more rows and then one after 4 more rows, just so you can see what it should look like. And then after that, I will come back and tell you what to do. And we're back again, and this is a couple of days later, and yes, I did keep going, because once you've got your corners set in and remember where they are, the rows are the same, and it increases only in the corners. One thing I did want to say, if you don't like this slightly bigger hole here, this is the one after the corner from row 1. You can just not put the 2 stitches there, but I found I was forgetting to do these corners if I didn't do that. So that's entirely up to you. It's only a small hole, and it's under the arm where no one will see it anyway. So getting back to how much I did, this is where I'm stopping, and this is 14 rows from the beginning chain all the way out. And I actually, where is it? I took the pin out, didn't I? I started my second ball. No, I can't find it now. It was on this row here, so I really only had 2 rows of the new ball to finish this off. And next thing I want to show you is how I've been folding them. You've seen that in the photos that you just saw. So you get it wrong side down. Now, if you don't know which side's your right side and which side's your wrong side, if you look here, looking up like this, you can't really see much. But if you turn it this way, you can see these little V's on the top. These ones here, they look a bit like a knit stitch. When you can see those easily, this is your right side. So look for the V's. If I put it to the wrong side and tilt it up, you can't see them as well. You see more holes. So basically, if you can see holes here, you're on the wrong side. If you can see V's here, you're on the right side. Hopefully that helps. So the way you fold the jacket is, this is your beginning chain, right? So you lay it out, and then you find the first corner. I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. This is our first corner. This is where our beginning corners are. So bring your finger down and then fold that over your finger. So that's in line with that join. So if we bring this down now and just flatten everything out, it makes the shape of half a cardigan, which is what we want. So that is how you fold it to see how you're going. Just find the first corner on the bottom edge and then fold it in line with the middle corner. So pull this across, straighten out the other side, like so. Now, the next thing I did was I matched up the clusters along the top edge with the clusters along the back edge, and then I put a pin where they matched up. So we got the corners matched up all the way along, and that pin is where this corner meets that one, because we need a little bit unworked for the back of the neck. All right, and it's, I think it was 3. Is it 3? Yes, it is. So there's 3 between them, and that I think is a good amount to stop. You can do another row if you want, but I wouldn't do less. You do need a neck gap. So to show you the next part, with this cardigan being a granny cluster, we can join the top of the shoulders with join as you go. With the other one, we'll have to do back loop single crochet. I would have to show you that in a different video. Just write in the comments if you want me to show you that way. We're doing this one at the moment. So I have just, this is where my rows start. So I have just started another row. So chain up 3, 2, and then carry on. And we're going to crochet until we get to this corner. So this is our sleeve. We're going to keep going around until we get to that corner. So I'm just going to do that. I'll be back when I get to this corner and show you how to join them up. So I've got to the, just before the corner, I've just got to turn this over. So we're going to like this, because we need to be working from the right side. And I have stopped just as I was about to do the corner, because our first join is on the corner. So put your hook back in. Do the first half of your corner. So 1, 2, and 3. Now most corners have 2 chains. We're going to do 1, and then our second chain, we're going to go through the corner and do a slip stitch. That becomes your second chain. Now that that's joined, let's take this stitch marker out. All right, not there, and then we finish the rest of the corner. So back to the same hole. That's 1, 2 and 3. Now we don't have any stitches between our clusters, if you remember, so we're just going to slip stitch to the other side. You can see that we just slip stitched, and then we do the next cluster just as normal. We just do that slip stitch first. If you have been putting chains between your clusters, if it's 1 chain, just do the slip stitch. If you've been doing 2 chains, it'll be really loose, but do 1 chain, then do your slip stitch. We're going to do it again. So we're coming from the back to the front, pull it through, and then slip stitch it. And we just keep doing that all the way along until we get to that stitch marker we put in, which is right here. Okay, so I'll do another one and then I'll come back when this bit row's done. So finish this one off that we just did. Now, no change, remember, we're going from the back to the front and slip stitch, and then just do your next cluster as normal. So I will just get to where my stitch marker is doing this all the way along. Actually, just before I do that, I'll just show you what it looks like flattened out. This is what it looks like flattened out. There is our slip stitches right there. There's another one there and then another one there. So it lays flat, which is what we want, and then your clusters are lined up as well. So I'll be back in a minute and we'll show you how to do the next bit. So we've got all the way along back to our first stitch marker we put in for the neck. So this cluster will be a little bit different. Well, actually it won't be that different. We have only got half a corner here. So what we're going to do is we'll do this stitch. So I'll do that stitch without catching the other corner in it. 2 and 3. But what will happen is when we come back up for the other half of this, we will do the slip stitch then for that one. It'll make sense when we get there, I promise. So we just do normal clusters between the 2 neck stitch markers, that's the word. 3. And what I want to do with this stitch marker that we're getting up to, we're going to do the cluster, but we're going to leave the stitch marker in because we need to do the rest of this row till the corner, do the bottom of the sleeve, and then join up on the front back to this one. So we're going to leave that stitch marker in, so we'll just do the cluster holding the stitch marker out the way so it's not going to be a pain in the bum, and then we're just going to keep doing clusters all the way along here, around the sleeve, and then up to here. So I'm going to put a stitch marker on here, on this one here, to know that's when we've got to do something different, and I will be back to show you that. So we've done all this from where we left the stitch marker all the way along, around, and we're at the top one that I said. So we're just going to match those up and bring everything back to the front, because we now have to join up this side. Just bring it down low enough so that you can see it. So I have done the first half of that corner. Take the stitch marker out, and we now need to do what we did with the other sleeve. Get that a bit tighter, that's better. We're going, that's our corner one. We're going from the back to the front, pick it up, and then pull it through. That is our slip stitch, and then we finish the rest of the corner holding the stitch marker out the way until we finish. 2 and 3. That is the end of the sleeve joined. Let's just take this stitch marker out before it really annoys me. And so we will repeat what we did before, match up with the next one. We're going, my thread is above the hook, pick it up and go like that. So we're going to do this all the way along. So you do a normal cluster. Once you've done that slip stitch, just a normal cluster. 2 and 3. And then find the next one. Back to the front, pull it through and under. And you work your way along. This is not a different stitch, it's just adding the slip stitch between the clusters. Make sure you always have 3 clusters and just maintain it. And it does lay flat as you go. If yours is puckering up, you might be pulling your slip stitch a little bit tight. Just stretch it out like this. You should be able to stretch a little hole, but it will pull itself together. So we're at the next one. Pull it through and carry on. You want that quite tight. Don't try and, well, I just said make it loose enough. You want it tight enough to hold together, but loose enough to lay flat. Little Goldilocks zone between them. Back to front, pull it through. And keep on going. You should have the same clusters on this side joining as you did on the other side. So, you know, it might be a thing to check. Or not if you don't want to know. And this one. So we're just working along the top edge, following the same row that we've done 14 other times. Joining them up. I put my thumb on the stitch so they don't pull too high. If I don't have my thumb there, I end up with stitches of all different lengths. I'm also holding the work between my little finger and my second last finger so that it's not pulling on the hook. Helps with your tension. And this one. A few more to go. I just thought I'd show you one whole run of joining up. I know it's a little bit boring, but we're getting there. That one there. Now what I decided to do also is I will do the ribbing as a separate video because this video is already quite long. So that will be the next video coming out, and it will be the ribbing on this cardigan, but the ribbing itself can be used for any crochet work or even knitting work, and there is 2 different ways to do it. I'm going to show you the one where it gathers it in a bit, but I'll also explain the one where it doesn't gather it in. So that'll be the next video, but I will be showing you on this cardigan how to do it. So look out for that. I think we're coming up to nearly an hour-long video, so I don't think we need to add more. And if you like this video, please comment down below. And if you would like to see how to do the other kind where it's in the back loops and it's solid grannies, just write that in the comments. I might be able to do that as like a little live just to show you the difference. I'll do like a baby one so it's really small and done quickly. So we're at the corner now. So we slot into there. So now this is our corner here. We're going to do the first half of the corner. 2 and 3. And then we're going to slip stitch to join it there, but now we're not joining anymore. So we bring the rest of the jacket out the way so we don't do it accidentally. We're now working down the front part of the cardigan. And the rest of this row is just the same as the rest of the rows you've been doing. Hey, look at that, it's just changed colour. So this one, I'll just do this one cluster and then I'll flatten it out to show you. Put the stitch marker on, make it the blue one so we know it's our active loop. And I will straighten this out so you can see what we've done. So technically this could be finished if you don't want ribbing. Well, not finished, I mean finish this one row, but once that's done you could stop there, and if you just want it like as a dressing gown cardigan or something like that. Let's just get that out of the way. So these sleeves are all joined up and you just finish this, you go down around the bottom and you join up, and then when you get to here, this is our half corner, and you echo what you did here. So you do half the corner, you do a slip stitch over to this one, and then you do a slip stitch to the top of there, and that will finish it off, weave in your ends, and away you go. But like I said, this one I am tending on putting the ribbing on. So if you wanted to do ribbing on yours, you'll need 4 buttons the size you want to use, and you will need enough yarn to do it. I have this much left of my second ball, which I should be able to get the cuffs of the arms out of that. So I will need a third ball, but I won't use all of it. So I might color control with this one just so that it finishes off, because I don't really want the lightest color on cuffs for children. So that's how much you would need. This one I think is going to be, this yarn is thinner than the yarns I've used before, because I've used more of it than on the other jackets. So that's an indication of how much yarn you'll need. So I will need more than this to do the cuffs, but not a lot more. So I'll leave it there. Remember to finish off your last row if you're stopping here. And if you're doing the ribbing, you'll need to finish it too. So finish your row. And I will see you on the next video, and I hope it's helpful. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I do check periodically, and I'll see you in the next video.